Hey everyone, welcome back to another video. In today's video, we're going to be talking about brain fog. Over the course of the pandemic, have you found yourself saying that you just don't feel like yourself, or your brain is a little bit foggy or cloudy? Maybe you're having some issues with memory, you're just not remembering things like you normally do? Or did you even get COVID and then for the next couple months, you felt all of these symptoms? Well, I recently just learned why, and that's what I'm going to share with you in this video. So basically, your brain needs a few simple things. These are non-negotiable things that your brain absolutely needs. And when you take these things away, your brain essentially starts to act up. It starts to get cloudy, it starts to lose memory. However, when you give your brain those simple things, it goes right back to normal. Just by adding these things in, you will notice a huge increase in mental clarity. So with that being said, let's dive right into this. So when I was walking around the bookstore just looking for new things to read, a book caught my eye. This is the book that I pulled off the shelf. It's called The Brain Fog Fix. Now, the reason that I bought this book is because when I was standing in the bookstore flipping through the different pages to see if the book was interesting, every page I landed on for the most part was giving me one of those aha moments. So I ended up buying the book, took it home, and read it over the course of a couple days. And when I started implementing these things, literally within a week, I noticed a huge increase in mental clarity and performance in my own brain. Not only just me, when I found this out and I shared it with two of my close friends, they had the same results within a week as well. So although this book is filled with a ton of things, I'm going to share just the 10 really key takeaways from this book that you can start implementing and notice a good change in your own brain. Now, for those of you who are really interested in this stuff and you want the deep dive on this, I'll link up this book in the description, and I would definitely recommend getting it in a hard copy, just something like this, so that you can keep flipping back to pages, you can use a highlighter, all of these things. I don't know that this book would be the best in audiobook format. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. So the first thing is something I never realized was even a thing. So number one is omega-3 versus omega-6. So if you've heard of fish oil or healthy fat or fatty acid, this is where this applies. So what I never realized is that healthy fats are broken up into omega-3 and omega-6. Omega-3 is the one that lowers inflammation and is good for your body. Omega-6 actually increases inflammation. So it's not something that you want. The hard part is finding foods that have a lot of the good one and not a lot of the bad one. It's called the omega-3 to 6 ratio. Now, what I just learned is when you're eating foods that are high in this fat, things like eggs, dairy, meat, and fish, that ratio is dependent on how that food was raised or grown. So the ratio is really good on that kind of food that is organic or grass-fed or wild caught, and that ratio is really bad on food that is conventionally grown or farmed in most cases. So when you go to the store and you're going to buy chicken or you're going to buy meat, opt for the one that is organic or grass-fed, because the ratio will be a lot better. Now, my quick tips here are you want to get as much omega-3 in your diet. So the best way to do that out of all foods is going to be wild caught salmon. Now, on top of eating that as much as you can take a pill version of the omega-3. That's what I choose to do in addition to eating salmon. And this is the one that I choose. It's called Nordic Naturals Ultimate Omega. It's essentially only omega-3s and no omega-6s. So it helps to get that ratio in check no matter what you're really eating. So I'll link this one down in the description as well. This is the brand that I recommend. Now, this leads us right into the second point here, and this is inflammation. When you eat a bad diet, it increases inflammation in your whole body, meaning that things are getting bigger and your body's trying to get it back down. Well, this happens particularly in your brain, and that's what gives you brain fog. Well, great ways to combat that are obviously the omega-3s and eating the right foods in the right ratio, but also turmeric. Now, turmeric is a natural plant, and it's actually extremely effective at being an anti-inflammatory. This is not a prescription or any drug like that. It's simply just a plant. But if you can work more turmeric into your diet, you will have less inflammation overall, which equals less brain fog. Now, there are a few options for turmeric. You can either just do organic ground turmeric and you can just put that on basically all foods, or you can opt for just a pill. This is what I like to do when I haven't had a lot of turmeric each day. This is another great brand. I'll link to this one in the description as well. Now, this brings us right into number 3. This is getting 7 servings of vegetables and fruit every day. Vegetables are more important than fruits for the nutrients for your brain. Now, most people only get anywhere from 2 to 4 servings of vegetables and fruits per day. So getting that number up to a full 7, you will absolutely feel the difference on this one, especially if you're combining it with the first 2 we talked about. Essentially, why this is so important is because the nutrients that come out of vegetables and fruit are some of those simple, important, crucial nutrients for your brain. And if you don't have them, your brain just won't function normally. Only getting 2 to 4 servings a day doesn't really meet that quota of what your brain needs. So my simple hack here is I just make a smoothie. I make it every day or every other day. But basically what this smoothie is I essentially just use a big blender, and then I put frozen spinach, frozen kale, frozen broccoli. So all these things are just in the freezer and you can simply grab them out of there. They last a long time. And then 1 whole banana, a little bit of fresh ginger root, the whole root, you can throw it into the blender, and then about a cup or 2 of water. And then optionally, you can put in a scoop of vanilla protein powder if you're someone who wants some more protein in your diet. You blend all these things up and you actually get a pretty good tasting smoothie. It doesn't taste like vegetables, but it's going to give you nearly all 7 of your servings. Now, I used to use a little NutriBullet blender, but it wasn't quite big enough, so I've opted for a full-size Ninja blender. It was just over $100, but the thing is absolutely worth it. I will link to one down in the description, but if you have a Vitamix or any full-size blender, that's what I would use for this smoothie, because all of those frozen vegetables take up a lot of space, so you kind of need a bigger blender for it to blend up properly. Moving along, let's go to the key takeaway number 4. This is understanding cofactors. This is something I never knew existed, and it's a very short one, but basically some nutrients are needed for other nutrients to absorb. So if you're just getting certain nutrients, they may not even be absorbing if you don't have the variety of other nutrients that may be required in order to get those ones to absorb. Basically, diversify your diet. Just eat a bunch of different things because you may need cofactors from one thing for the nutrients of the other thing to get absorbed. All right, moving on to number 5. This is bread, pasta, and rice. Essentially, the takeaway here is when you eat white bread or you eat white rice or just regular pasta, basically what happens is it spikes your blood sugar. And that's what gives you the food coma feeling after you eat a huge meal. Well, that's also the brain fog feeling. So if you can eliminate the spike that comes in your blood sugar from eating the standard versions of these, then you avoid the brain fog after a big meal. So basically the easy way to do this is to switch to sprouted bread or switch to brown rice. And then even for pasta, switch to chickpea pasta. All right, moving on to number 6. This is caffeine and alcohol. Now, what most people don't realize is that caffeine and alcohol can actually be good for you. It just comes down to a few specific things. So talking about caffeine first, as long as you keep it under 200 milligrams per day, caffeine is totally fine. And then talking about alcohol, if you can opt for red wine, specifically if you really want to do the best you can do, Pinot Noir is the best red wine for you. And if you can keep it to just 1 glass per day, then you're totally fine. In fact, coffee and red wine are 2 of the highest antioxidant sources in the American diet. Number 7, this is sugar and artificial sweeteners. Now the short answer here is just cut out most of the sugar, but don't cut out all of the sugar from your diet. Most people say you need to eliminate all of the sugar. Well, I highly disagree. Make sure that you're keeping some sugar in your diet because your brain feeds off of sugar. If you eliminate all of it, then your brain still won't be performing optimally. And then the other part of this is the artificial sweeteners. These are not good for you any way you look at it. The 2 main ones are going to be sucralose and aspartame. If you see those typically in diet drinks or the skinny version of whatever the drink is, stay away from those as best you can. They're not made for the human body. They're just made to be sweet and have 0 calories. If you do see stevia on an ingredients list, that's the one that I would say is okay if you're going to do a sugar alternative. Okay, moving right along, let's get to number 8. This is a sedentary lifestyle. This was really eye-opening for me to learn. So basically what has happened in this 21st century, we have it so good that we are sitting too much. When I'm filming this video right now, I'm sitting. On the way to work for most people, they're sitting in the car. When you get to work, most people are sitting at their desk all day. On the way back home, guess what? You're sitting in the car again. And then you get home, you sit for dinner. After that, you sit on the couch, you go to bed, you lay in bed. By and large, we are not getting the exercise or the amount of movement that we need in our lives. So the simple solution here is just to move more. This can even be just walking more. Now, the reason that this is so important, there's a region of the brain called the hippocampus. Now, this is actually in charge of memory, but it also has to do with feeling happy. Now, the way that you stimulate and you grow your hippocampus is by exercising. If you're sitting all day, the hippocampus just shrinks. And it's even shown that people that have depression or depressive symptoms, their hippocampus is smaller. So just by working out or walking more, any movement that you can do, you're working on that hippocampus to build it back up. It's going to increase your memory and make you feel happier. Personally, I use a rowing machine. I do a half a mile, and that takes me about 4 minutes to do. So 4 minutes every day or every other day is all the exercise. It completely checks off this box. Now, I've owned 2 rowing machines over the years. The one that I currently have is the one that I would recommend. I think it's about $130 on Amazon, and it's the only piece of equipment that you need for exercise. I will go ahead and link that one down in the description as well. well. It's definitely the better of the two rowing machines that I've owned. All right, let's get into number 9. This is avoid prescriptions. Now, specifically talking about prescriptions for anxiety and depression. Now, the reason that this book explains to avoid prescriptions is because they come with real side effects. Although they may be treating one thing, you're likely going to have a pretty crazy side effect somewhere else or multiple places as a result of taking that prescription. Now, even in some cases, it causes a chain reaction where the side effects you get from the one prescription, you need another prescription for those, and then they have side effects, and it can keep going, and then you're on multiple drugs. Now, specifically, I'd like to hone in on anxiety and depression prescriptions, and the reason for that is studies have shown the recurrence rate after taking these prescriptions is much higher than those people who did not take these prescription drugs for anxiety or depression. Do the things that I've talked about in this book first, give it a week and see how you feel. I would almost bet that you are going to feel so much better and you're not going to have those symptoms and you won't need that prescription anyways. And on top of that, you're fixing it properly from the source, so you're not going to have high recurrence rates or dependence on prescription drugs. And that brings us into the last one. This is number 10. This is finding purpose and meaning. I know this sounds cliche, but it is so important to this whole grand scheme of things. Essentially, if you ever have the feeling of something's missing or something's lost, well, that's basically going to boil down to purpose and meaning. Now, the reason for this that blew my mind is that in humans, we have a part of the brain called the prefrontal cortex. Now, for some people, this section of the brain affects them just a little bit. For other people, it affects them a lot. For me, I'm someone who this part of my brain affects my life a lot. I need to have a big purpose and a big meaning in order to feel like nothing is missing. Personally, I satisfy this kind of craving for purpose and meaning in my family and in work. So what I would recommend to you is if you feel like something's missing or something's lost, first look to your family, see if you can kind of satisfy it there, find purpose and meaning, and then think about work. If you're not getting that purpose or meaning in your current job, then I highly recommend starting a business. That is going to give you so much purpose and meaning because you're building something that's larger than yourself. This area of starting a business is another area where I feel like I can be a good resource to help you. So if you're interested in starting a business, I'll link another video down in the description that goes over the 7 businesses I've been doing for years that will definitely give you purpose and meaning. You'll probably have a lot of drive trying to grow those businesses. I'm here to help you along the way. So if you're someone who needs that video should be pretty helpful. All right, so let's do a quick recap of everything here. Number 1 is have a daily green smoothie every day or every other day. This is going to help you get your 7 servings of vegetables. My recipe is frozen kale, frozen spinach, frozen broccoli, fresh ginger, a whole banana, water, and optionally vanilla protein. Number 2 is when it comes to meat, fish, dairy, or eggs, eat only organic or grass-fed. This will keep your omega-3 to omega-6 ratio in check. Number 3, eat more turmeric in your diet. Number 4, focus as much of your diet around omega-3s and keep out the omega-6s as much as possible. On top of that, wild-caught salmon is going to be the best source of omega-3. Number 5, get more physical activity. This can be just walking around, and if you do it outside, it'll be a nice bonus that you get vitamin D as well. Number 6, avoid prescriptions the best you can, specifically for anxiety and depression, because the recurrence rates are going to be higher once you stop that medication. You might feel like you have a dependence on that medication, and if you just do these other things in this video, you can likely solve it before even taking a prescription. And number 7, find a purpose and meaning. Look to your family first, look to your work after. If you're not getting it from work, start a business. I'll put a video down in the description that hopefully helps in that department. So guys, that is it for this video. If you have any questions, let me know down in the comments. And if you know anyone who is struggling with brain fog, share this video with them. Again, I'll link the book down in the description. All right, guys, that's it for this one. I'll see you all in the next video.